Thurston put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good evening, everybody. Tuesday, the 5th of March, 2024. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your host, Zac over this end, Toby over that end. Brought to you by Best On Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guys. And because I stumbled over that, allow me to say it again. The digital marketing agency, I did it again, that looks after the little guys. They are the best in the business. Thank you once again, Best On Ground Digital, for supporting the show, bestongrounddigital.com. And you're Toby. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. You finally got it out, did you?
Finally got it out. It's been a long start to the week, my friend.
Oh, it has been. Footy's back, but not the footy we really care about too much. So,
No, footy is back. Footy's back in a big way. We're going to touch on Vegas as well. But, mate, how are things in your world? Going well?
Oh, mate, same old. Went down to the homelands, so to speak, over the weekend. Went down to see some family down in mid-north coast. So it was good. Good to get away. Get to get some sun and some beach. But, yeah, mate, when you get to our age, not much changes. What about yourself?
How is everything down in God's country down there?
It's great, mate. It's a great place to visit. Couldn't live there, but it's a great place to visit.
Couldn't live there, you reckon?
No, there's not enough going on. It's a bit too, people just go through the motions down there. So need a little bit.
You want a bit of pizzazz, you want an exciting life, mate, do you?
I think so. I think what's the point in having a life that's not exciting?
Well, look, throw me on a rocking chair out in a porch out the back of Karamba somewhere. I reckon I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, well, you can have that life. I'll keep myself busy.
Vegas opening weekend, mate. On the weekend, very quickly. There's been a lot said about it. Are you pro or negative on that one?
I'm pro. I think it delivered a great spectacle. I think there was only one real time in both games where the short field really played a bit of a. I wouldn't say it was detrimental to the game, but it definitely almost could have injured someone, with Daniel Tupou, I think, getting pushed out by Tony Staggs, and the smaller field definitely played a part then. But apart from that, I think they played it well, and I think it was a great spectacle, like I said.
Yep, mate, put me in the doubting camp, because I thought it was another one of these grandiose plans, bit of a pipe dream stuff in terms of how well it would stick. We don't really have metrics on what is happening in the US market around it, but I think, at least in terms of what it did for back home, it was undoubtedly positive. And the big thing for me, mate, that I reckon made a big difference this time is it wasn't an exhibition game. It was actually 2 points on the line for both of the games. So I think that actually meant that the players took it seriously and they actually played good competitive football, and everybody took it seriously, which was wonderful. And to think that you had Mahomes throwing touchdown plays not 3 weeks ago, and then you had the likes of Jason Saab sprinting away down the same, on the same field on the weekend is pretty remarkable when you think about it. So yeah, look, it was really cool, and I won't go so far as to say I hope it's around forever, but if it is something they are invested in, I hope they continue to sort of double down on it and make it something that is around for a while and have a proper go rather than a bit of a flash in the pan.
Yeah, well, it definitely sounds like it's something that they're committed to, especially when God himself, Volandis, decides to put his foot down and has something in mind. He's, I think he mentioned something about a potential 10-year commitment to that. So,
yes, as it stands, I think we've got a current 5-year, inclusive of this year. But as you said, if we see a bit of success around it, PVL reaches for the stars, doesn't he?
Excuse me. Yes, he definitely does. And, we can't thank that man enough, to be honest. So look how much this game has flourished under his watch.
Yeah, mate, it's very impressive on the weekend. I was as happy as I think a lot of pundits were about every facet of it, obviously. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that system's going to work into the future, and and what teams they're going to send and all that sort of stuff as well, whether it's similar teams year on year because they're marketable or whether it's on a rotating basis or whatnot. It'd be interesting to see. Mate, if the Tigers get over there at some point, you reckon it's beyond you to ask for a decent leave pass? Because I tell you what, talk about a junket. Oh, wouldn't that be a belter?
Jeez. Look, you and I aren't too far off the big 4-0. If it does happen around the same time, I think that might have to be a 4-0, I guess a 4-0 leave.
Look, put it this way, there'd have to be a few favours with the wives that we'd have to rack up, but hey.
Yeah.
A man can dream, eh?
A man can dream, and it all really depends if they're worth going to visit at that point in time as well.
Yeah. Mate, I've been there, Vegas, by myself.
Never been to the States, so
it's wild.
It's definitely a bucket list, not to just go to the States, but to go the old what is it? It's Easy Rider. Jump on a Harley and go down Route 66.
Over in the States?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of many tracks you can ride, mate. And as a Harley rider myself, I reckon that's probably on the list at some point. I think we might find our way over there at some point, but we'll see how we go. Yeah. Mate, let's get 100%. To talking footy. So as it currently stands, we've got round one completing in this coming weekend. Obviously, West Tigers have the bye, and so we don't play until next weekend, obviously. So the plan is at this stage, in terms of those people listening, and we'll make sure that our socials are well apprised of this as well, is we're going to do our season launch next week, and we're going to have a lot of deliberate segments and that sort of stuff as well. But in lieu of that, this week, what we want to do, is put a few questions out to the listeners and those that do follow us. And we, as always, we're humbled and so appreciative of everybody's feedback and everybody's interaction. And just basically to see, one, is there any questions that they wanted to pose or put us on the spot, which was, I think a few of them jumped at that opportunity to be able to maybe try to stump us or whatnot.
Surprised as well, to be honest. Didn't think that many people really cared what we had to say. They just listened as white noise in the background, but it's cool.
Exactly right, yeah. And also whether they want to have a comment or just a prediction or whatnot as well. So massive thank you. We got smashed with messages, quite frankly, today, which was just unreal. I was flat chat. We both were flat chat trying to respond and touch base with everybody. So thank you so much. We're going to get through every single one of them today. If we miss you, it is by accident, not design. So let us know, send us a message, and we will personally put you in the show next week. But thanks very much for everybody who contributed, commented, wrote. Some of the discussions were unreal. So we're just going to jump in, mate, and we might move through a couple of these comments and whatnot. Some are framed as questions, and we'll work our way through answering some of those in our opinion. It's always our opinion. And others, we might just read out a couple of the comments and whatnot as well, and just see if we can use that as a jump-off point to what people want to talk about.
Just sort of cut you off a little bit there. Thought maybe really quickly we'd backtrack for 2 seconds at the Vegas game and maybe talk about Brooks's performance, because obviously that was a big talking point. Yep. Brooks was with us for a decade. Obviously, those that have listened to us for a little bit know my view on Brooks and thought that this was always going to be the best solution for him.
Yeah.
In terms of parting ways and, again, not being a dominant playmaker.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd want to, because I kind of want to talk a little bit about that and sort of air my thoughts and what I thought, what eventuated from that game. But if you're comfortable with that.
Mate, let's go for it. I thought we'd never have to talk about Luke Brooks again. But let's go for it.
I don't think we will after this. Unless, he decides to win a Dally M and a premiership, then we can sit there and say, well, you were never going to do it at the Tigers anyway. So
he'd be vindicated in his decision, mate. What'd you make of Brooksy's game?
Yeah, exactly what I expected, if I'm being honest. Again, like I just mentioned, people will be very well versed in my opinion of Luke Brooks in Tigers colours. I've got the utmost respect for the bloke, well, technically for the kid compared to me. We've both been, we've both liked what he's done, but also been be very critical of what he's done as well.
Yep.
I said time and time again that when he won Dally M Halfback of the Year, he was actually a 5'8". He just had the number 7 on his back. Benji was the halfback, basically directing the team. As soon as he came into a team which had that dominant playmaker and allowed him to just play his natural game, he flourished. I think he had a couple of line break assists, 101 running meters, and scored a try as well. So, look, I'm glad he's finally realised that that's what he needed to do. And yeah, I thought exactly what he produced was exactly what I thought was going to happen. So,
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people are of the same ilk. I don't think anybody ever doubted Luke Brooks' ability on the football paddock. I think, as we've said many times in the past, absolutely terrific fella, super humble, always played his heart out, and a very naturally gifted footballer. He just was at a club that has been shit for an extended period of time, and given the role and the position that he plays on the field, a lot of it basically lived and died by, or his reputation lived and died by our results. And as we said, there's a lot of shortcomings as well. The big reason I think he played so well on the weekend, and I think he will do so well, is not unlike what you said, having superstars around him, but I think actually very specifically with his running game, because if you notice on the weekend, the times when he sliced through, he did it twice. He just dropped one over the line in the first instance, but anytime he took the line on, or at least when he's sitting there in his options, he has threats around him, and the reason that is beneficial. This is not news to anybody, but obviously when you have threats around you, you're going to have eyes taken partially off you because people are trying to mitigate multiple threats. If you've got Tommy Turbo sweeping out the back, you've got Alokawatu threatening with a crash ball, and you've also got the option of Brooks running, it creates a shitload more doubt in the defender's mind, which means they can't dedicate everything to making that tackle if you are the person charged with tackling Brooks. In Tigers' colours, people knew there wasn't many threats around, so they could load up on him. They wouldn't have to worry too much about a sweep or whatnot. One, because we don't have the talent inside and haven't for a lot of Brooks's tenure, unless, you count, I guess, Teddy when he was there, obviously. Or we just have never had the execution, the ability, the speed, all that sort of quality to be able to pull that stuff off. So, I think that it's the fact that the eyes aren't directly on him, and he's not the only threat in that side, which is going to open up the field to him. And I think he played the way that he played a lot last year. I think he ran the ball really well last year. I just think that those little half breaks and things that he made was simply because the defenders that were in and around him that were able to grab a jersey or a bootlace or whatever the case may be didn't have anybody else to worry about. He's that good of a runner that he made these little half breaks and half chances last year. I thought he ran really well last year. But, like we said, without those other threats around, you're not diverting attention away from the defenders, which is what you need to do to create doubt and create opportunity. So all the best to Brooksy. Like we said, very humble fellow. He gave his all for the club. I hope one day he comes back as a Tigers junior, comes back in the club at some point in the fold in some way, whether it's membership or juniors or coaching or whatever the case may be. He's a Tiger at heart, and all the best to him, except when he plays against us.
Yes, like I mentioned last year, I really hope he comes down with the flu that weekend, and maybe potentially like just a very mild case of COVID, but they just don't want to risk everyone else getting infected, so he just has to sit that weekend out.
Exactly right. Now, all the best, Brooksy. I hope he has a good year. Not so much Cherry Evans, but I hope Brooksy has a good year.
Yeah. Yeah, no one hopes Cherry Evans has a good year unless you're a Queensland supporter.
All right, mate. Hey, we might jump into some of these responses from the audience and listeners today, hey?
Sounds good.
All right, so the first one's going to be from Michael Donaher. Now, if I pronounce anybody's name wrong, big apologies, folks. I'm doing my very best. So we'll see how we go. And Mike said, boys, be relentless and unwavering in your drive to succeed. And if you have to prove it to anyone besides yourselves and each other, prove it to all the naysayers and doubting Thomases out there that they are wrong. So Big Mike's come in with the big motivational speech, mate. Love the positivity.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not something that Tigers fans are known for at the back end of a season, but we're definitely known for at the start of a season, is positivity, optimism, and just hope, really, in that it's going to be a different year. So, you know, that's he hit the nail on the head. Like, in this, like, they really don't have anything to prove other to than themselves and the fans. Don't worry about the critics. Don't worry about anything like that. They'll all silence once those performances come through. But the club definitely owes it to the fans to just show up with the right attitude every week, and I think that's kind of what that alludes to.
Yeah, as well. And all the talk out at the club over the summer is how tight everybody is and how upbeat and positivity around the place, and how there's no outside noise coming in as well. So I think Michael's on the money there, and it sounds from what we're hearing, as you would expect, I guess, that that's the way the boys are approaching the year, and hopefully that holds us in good stead. Like we said, we're coming off 2 wooden spoons, so we've got to be hopeful and optimistic, and we're going to cross our fingers at this stage and hope that it kicks off next week.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny that you say that how tight this group is. I was reading an article today that Appy has developed a bromance with Bud. That can only be a good thing if your spine is developing a bit of a bromance. So exciting times.
I don't know if they share hairdressers too, because they both went the peroxide.
As far as I know, that was a punishment.
Yeah, that's what we heard, but maybe it was a 2-for-1 deal. I don't know. It's not a good look, boys. Come on now.
No.
That's the Viliami kick-out look for the last few years, isn't it?
It is. It suits some people, it doesn't suit others.
That's it. Interesting article, that one, by the way. If you haven't seen Fox Sports, Appy breaks down a few bits and pieces around how he feels about the captaincy and how he's feeling coming into this new season. It's a really good read, so get in and have a listen to that one. Yep. Mate, we've got Perry here. So Perry said, please be everything you weren't in the trials. So online defence, strong, pinpointed attack. So I'm assuming we're talking accuracy, and particularly kicking game as well. So the ability to be able to hit kicks on where they need to be, hit passes, have your passes hitting the mark. Well-structured midfield defence. So, the defence in the middle we spoke about, which we alluded to about the ruck as well. We'll come back to that. Fantastic kicking game. Do this and see how much you'll improve. Fail to do it, and you'll go down the hole until you collect another spoon. And it's hard to argue with Perry there, mate. It's, if we don't get a lot of these glaring things right, we know where we're going to be because we've done it a couple of years in a row now. So obviously there needs to be improvement, mate. I wanted to zero in a little bit on where he said sort of pinpointed attack and fantastic kicking game. To me, that's a cohesion thing.
It is. I think that definitely plays a majority part of it, but I think it also comes down to, I guess, experience as well. If you think about the pinpoint attack, things like that, you'd like to think that someone with Caesar's experience can understand the way a game flows, understand where we need to be. There's certain times throughout, the last decade, where you've said it, I've said it, probably anyone with a football brain has said it, is, very basics. You got on the back foot, repeat set. Don't just die with the ball, try to figure something out, do this, do that. And I think that definitely plays a large part of it as well. But cohesion definitely is probably the key factor there. Yeah.
And there's a number of things, as you said, the number of factors that can impact cohesion and execution as well. And it's no secret we've struggled, I think, for execution for a little while now. Obviously, the last couple of years we've been smacked a little bit by injuries, but it's going to be reps in the tank. So it's repetition. Obviously, you repeat something often enough, you get good at it. But also, like we said, being able to field the same side, for multiple weeks in a row, or preferably most of the whole season, same halves, same three-quarter line, all that sort of stuff. You pull players in and out for that, no matter how good they are at filling a role, they're never going to be inch perfect. And if they are, it's quite remarkable. And the other thing, obviously, being what we're talking about before, you're talking about Appy and Bud. And if these guys can be quite tight-knit and they can become really close, you do sort of develop this intangible sixth sense, I guess. And you see it really well with the likes of Luai and Cleary that we've seen for quite a long time, So it's not only the fact they've played a lot of football together and they have this sixth sense about where they're going to be, but it's the fact they're close mates as well.
Yeah.
So they probably talk a lot outside of football about certain bits and pieces. They probably start to think and they align similar ways in terms of how they're breaking down games when they're sitting at the pub having a couple of beers, So I think all these things are percentage points that contribute to how well a team executes. So, it's only, again, back to these encouraging signs about tightness and cohesion over the summer. You can hope that this sort of stuff is going to play in as well. And look, let's be perfectly frank, we're going to have to be pretty pinpoint perfect in our attack to be able to maximise the weapons we do have this year and get that points per game up. Because, bottom line, you cannot win football games scoring the amount of points we have last year or even for the last couple of years for that matter.
Yeah. But it's funny that you talk about that cohesion. We haven't really seen that at the club since, I guess, Moses Brooks and Tedesco at the club. Lo and behold, they were roommates. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And played a lot of junior footy together. So
They played a lot of junior footy together as well.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, no, definitely something that's pretty important too. Just the last little thing that I want to mention about what Perry has mentioned there is they've said well-structured midfield defence, and that can mean a lot of things as well. We spoke a lot about the ruck last week, and if you recall, I had deep concerns about our ability to control the ruck. I thought it was multifaceted. I thought it was the fact that we like we said last week, it just didn't show like we were there to go hard in Mudgee. It looked like the Dragons were. So there was a big difference in intensity immediately. That's going to play out in the ruck of all things, because that's where you fight for every inch and all that sort of stuff. We spoke about the wrestle, and if you're only 82% there on the day, you're not going to do those 1%ers that allow you to, if not take control of the ruck, at the very least, be able to match it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was a deep concern in the Dragons game. And for me, a lot of middle defence comes down to that goal defence to a degree, but that middle defence. If teams are rolling up the field, in my opinion, you're not controlling first contact and you're not controlling the ruck. If you do, which off the back of that is play the balls. You'll get people often talk about speed of the play the balls, but to me, if you're controlling the ruck and controlling the wrestle, then you're controlling the speed of the play the ball. It doesn't matter how quick someone can pop up and play their foot over it. If you're getting to them, if you're taking 5-6 seconds to get them to the ground every time, you're in charge. I think so. We need to be better.
Well, I think the thing there too that sort of, I guess, sets the tone for that is also line speed as well. And line speed definitely in the middle of the ruck is a huge, huge thing. You sit there, you wait for them. There's obviously the high probability they're going to find their front quick. They're going to play the ball quick and they're going to get that roll on. Whereas if you meet them in the middle and, like you said, control the ruck, potentially get them on their back, all of these things play a huge factor in keeping the attack slow in terms of, building that momentum.
And a slow play of the ball. And these things are also linked, aren't they? I mentioned first contact too. If you give the attacker 3 or 4 more strides, they're going to get 3 or 4 more strides worth of power and speed in their run, which means that you're going to have a little bit less yourself, and their impact is going to be greater relative to yours. They might win first contact. They win first contact. The wrestle component of finishing off that tackle becomes more difficult, and like you said, it just starts to snowball. And if we have slow play the balls, it helps line speed because everybody's got the time to get set, take 2 deep breaths, and then they can push. So the fatigue is a little bit less. So yeah, mate, they're all interlinked, aren't they? And what we see is the eventual outcome of a weak midfield or a weak centre of the field in terms of defence, or getting rolled up the middle, as we like to say. But there's so many things that play into it, and it's more than just tackling technique and how hard you're hitting, right?
It is.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Perry, for that one, mate. We're going to move on to Nicole. Now, Nicole's is just more of a comment, and I'm pretty rapt for it because she says, "Hey, guys, I'm going to the Easter Monday game. Love my Tigers. I'm going with Souths and Para supporter." Oh, that's unfortunate. Sorry, Nicole.
Whoa.
Nobody deserves that. There must be a punishment, maybe. So it would be awesome if we could score a win. As in coming from Brisbane, well done. Another Brisbaneite. Well, we're not Brisbaneites. We're just living here at the moment. But, and have never been to a Tigers game in Sydney, so no pressure. Look, Nicole, that's really exciting for you. I hope the boys can get a win. And Easter Monday, mate, what a game to go and see your first game in Sydney. How good's that?
Thank you. It's definitely. I've never seen a game at CommBank, so that'll be a good one. But bit of a tangent. Got my tickets for us versus the Titans at Leichhardt in I think it's round 15. So I'll be going down to God's country. So there's nothing better than a live Tigers game. It's like Nicole, if you ever get down to see a Leichhardt game, you will probably never want to leave. It's just sitting on that hill, hearing the Tigers chant. It's when you go down and have a win. The name, the road that goes to Leichhardt has eluded me, but we're all walking back after a win. It's just, it's epic.
All the Leichhardt Concord locals will be killing us about that. But...
Oh, bloody oath. Just remember, I left Sydney when I was 2 years old and lived in the Mid-North Coast. So
yeah, I was born in Darlinghurst and didn't go back for 20 years. So yeah, no, Nicole, look, have a wonderful time. I hope they get a win, and for many reasons. But as Toby said, make sure that your second game that you go to, secure yourself some Leichhardt tickets, because you will not regret it. It is unbelievable. You'll never feel more at home than you feel on the hill.
Absolutely not. Just hearing the Tigers is just, oh God.
I don't know. I reckon there's something that was close to that. There's a different chant.
Is it something about Thurston?
It was the Thurston. You're Thurston. How good was that bloke? Bring him back.
That guy was great. I think we beat him that night too. He was our good luck charm.
He was a ripper. Yeah, Nicole, have a great time. That's wonderful. I'm a bit jealous. All right, so we'll move on now. Daniel. So Daniel said, as I heard an AFL player say, our aim this year is to get respect from the opposition. Small steps get you up the hill, boys. I love that. And I actually said, mate, I'm going to pinch that. And I have pinched it. So thanks for that, Dan. So that's a good one as well. I think that a lot of that is about, the incremental steps that we need to make sure that we are taking. The club is taking, obviously. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, and we as fans are taking in terms of our expectation as well. Sometimes it seems as though when you hit this rock bottom that no doubt we're there. We have then seen this sort of rejuvenative change where there has only really been positive stories over the off-season in terms of new start, quality CEO, biggest signing in history with Luai. There's a lot of positivity out of the club. Sometimes we think as though, well, it's simply going to be A to B. We're going to slowly, linearly get better. It's easy to forget this is professional sport. It doesn't always work like that. This is not a Disney film. There's every chance that these changes fall flat for whatever reason as well. Now, we have high hopes and reason to believe they won't be. They're good people in good places. And you and I and a lot of people at large are confident of improvements over time. But I like what Daniel says there when he says that we need to, maybe not exactly what he was alluding to, but, we need to sort of just temper things and be mindful that it's a long process and it's a step at a time.
I think the key thing out of that was earning the respect back from the opposition. I think that over the last few years, it does look like when people play us, we're an easy beat. And given the last 2 years' performances, it's hard to dispute that. Even if we did beat the only team that really beat the reigning premiers and the only team that the Dolphins never beat. That's a huge thing. We mentioned this time and time again, you and I have played football. We played football for many years, and there were certain teams that you played against that you just knew were going to be an easy beat, and you weren't too particularly concerned about them. You weren't particularly and 9 times out of 10, the result went the way that you thought it was going to. And I don't want us to be that anymore. I want us to be someone, especially when you go down, Leichhardt used to be a fortress, hasn't been for a long time. I want us to build that fortress back up and be a place that people just Thurston used to say he hated playing at Leichhardt because I think he rarely ever won there, and he used to play there consistently. So it was a place that people feared.
Thurston, Tigers, the only team Thurston never beat in Sydney.
There you go. So he never won at Leichhardt.
It's a cool stat. Never won anywhere against the Tigers south of the border. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. No, very, very good. All right. So moving on to the next one, Ray. So thanks, Ray, for your comments. Ray said, still lacking in intimidation in the forwards. A big bopper prop required. And Mike Daly has, doubled down on that as well, saying big hearts needed first as well. Those are one in the same, I guess, to make sure that, everybody that is wearing that jersey is coming to give their best and put their body on the line, no doubt there, Mike. But just in reference to what Ray says there, intimidation factor. Now, if we have a look at the types of people across the league that we think of intimidation, what are some names to come to mind? You got the likes of James Fisher-Harris, Maria Hargraves.
Nelson
Asafa Solomona.
Probably Payne Haas to an extent.
Yeah.
Probably
Payne
not
Haas.
so much from an aggression or I guess there's a different way to really look at this too. When you think about intimidation, do you think about intimidation in terms of that aggression, in terms of I guess, a little bit of fear that something's going to happen in a collision? Or do you think of intimidation of this person is going to beat me no matter what? Like, you look at Payne Haas, and I don't know if you watch the game closely, but he's added a couple of steps to his run up these days. So he's actually beating first offender almost every time that game. And that is that an intimidation factor that if you're the first contact, you're going to miss. So I guess there's two ways to really look at that intimidations, because I think when you really boil it down and you think about that aggression, the fear and things like that, I think we kind of have that because we have Clemmer. And Clemmer's always been known to be a little bit, like, nutters in the head, so to speak. Obviously, he's taken, the candle isn't burning as brightly as it once was in terms of his younger days, but he still has that in him. And I think that definitely is that aggression.
Yeah.
But in terms of the intimidating, in terms of that intimidation, when it comes to the skill, when it comes to the first contact and things like that, before watching the first two trials, I didn't think we had that. And I would agree with that. But watching Steph, and you've mentioned it quite a few times when we reviewed the first two trials, he's put a bit of he himself has put a bit of a step in, and he's creating that consistent push forward. He's consistently bending the line. He's consistently looking to break that first tackle. So I actually think we have that. So I'm going to respectively disagree with Ray on this one.
Okay. I see it a bit different. I think he's just referring to the types that I mentioned before in terms of that fear factor. Yeah, it's a different read on what you're saying. I don't disagree with the sort of things you're commenting on, but I think that, if we're looking at those names you mentioned, Clemmer, Steph, and you throw Pole in there as well, I guess Twal being a replacement prop, we don't have any of those types, in my opinion, at least at the moment, that do scare the opposition, or when you talk about first contact, actually worry about being hit. Now, these are professional, tough blokes. I don't think too many of them, at least outwardly, show that they are intimidated. But at the very least, it definitely plays an impact. When you get one of those big boys rush out of the line, it makes you second guess. Now, there's two questions. Do we have it in any capacity? I'm going to say we have it out on the centres now in Justin Olam. I think there's a lot of intimidation out there, and I think you could talk to Zach Lomax about that. I think you could also say that based upon the way that Junior Tupou hit Jack Bird in the same game, if those two are playing on the same side, as it seems that they may be, intimidation factor on our left edge is most definitely going to be there. You tell me that at times when Steve Maddai played, the opposition wasn't thinking about where is Steve Maddai on a swing. One of the best hitmen to ever hit. So I think we have it a little bit out wide this year. Unfortunately, hopefully those two can have that in their arsenal. But back to the original point that I think Ray was trying to make was in the forwards. So Clemmer had it when he was young. I'd like to see Steph step up. I think, you saw that. I think you can sort of see Steph is starting to mature into that type of no backward steps prop, and he needs to be because he's got the size. Let's hope his trial form carries on. We were both very pleased with his trial form. And then the other one is Fanua as well. We've seen it. I think we've seen it twice. We saw it against the Dragons and we saw it against Canberra. And the thing for me when Fanua is, because remind you, Fanua Pole is only just recently 21 as far as I'm aware. He's still quite a young man. It's very easy to forget that. He might even still be 20. When you see him run off the back fence, which hasn't happened much, but I think he's going to be something moving forward, talking about impact and that sort of stuff as well. Being the size that he is, how hard you play the game can directly impact, I guess, how much people are fearful of the impact and the tackles and the collisions and whatnot as well. And Fanua's not a small man. He might be a bit shorter, but he's not small. He's built. So, I think Steph and Fanua for those reasons have the ability to become those players. And so it'd be interesting to see what sort of comes of them over the years in terms of a Warrior Hargraves or a Fisher Harris, the types that no one wants to sort of mess with. I don't see that in our squad at the moment. I don't think it's entirely necessary, but I agree. I think that we do need to have that no backward step mentality with a few more of our middles. I think we own it in attack. Last year we got down the field fine. It was pretty good. But yeah, I think the best teams always have that in some element, don't they?
Well, they do. And if you're talking about people that, I guess, have that in them and potentially just need to learn to control it a little bit better, we've got the perfect signing in Samuela.
Well done. I missed him. Yes.
Yeah.
I like it.
So,
Yep, definitely. Definitely, mate. I agree. I think he can become that guy. And I think he's going to Jack Hetherington his way into doing it by making a few mistakes. Okay?
let's not go down that avenue, please.
Yeah. And we already see it. You know, he definitely has that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's definitely a good point. I think Sam can become that guy, depending on where he ends up being used, whether it's in the middle or on an edge. But I like that. Good work. All right, mate.
It's weird getting compliments from you. I don't know what's
You
going
should
on.
be used to it, mate. I've been handing them out like Skittles to you lately. Fair dinkum.
Yeah, I
You
know,
love
but I
the
think that's just
individual.
because are you dying or something?
We'll save that for after the show. I'm sweet. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll follow up with a couple of jokers who threw in a couple of joke comments. But they're probably actually serious, and they're probably not that far off the mark. So Kane commented, Tigers to emulate the Panthers three-peat with a three-peat of spoons. Thanks for that, Kane.
Ouch.
I will say that on form and on the bookies' odds, I think Kane's on the money. But obviously, heading into a season, we don't want to think that way, do we? And,
No.
mate, Paul as well had a similar idea. Although I like Paul's comment. He said top 17 finish for sure, and I reckon he's on the money. I reckon that we're going to finish top 17. I reckon we've got a good chance.
Look, I think he's looked into a bit of a crystal ball there. I think he's got I think he's got a winner on that one.
Oh, Nostradamus Paul. Look at him go, eh? Top 17. How does he know these things?
I don't know.
What a weapon. Mate,
what was that predicting gypsy woman? What was her name? The one that...
I don't know.
She's predicted everything so far.
Oh, okay. Whatever. That's like when the octopus was picking the winners of the World
Cup. I remember that now, actually. Yeah,
they are aliens, aren't they?
Mm.
Rick has commented, will the West Tigers campaign for Vegas next year? Now, we did sort of touch on that, I guess, so we won't hang on that for too long. Personally, I don't think that, I love it. I would rather us go there in a few years when we are a bit more competitive, hopefully, if we continue to sort of climb up that ladder a little bit and improve as a club. I would rather see us go over there and be a decent weapon of a side than go over there and get trounced, which is not guaranteed at the moment, but at the moment, we're coming off 2 spoons. I would rather see us go over there when we're a little bit more successful. What about you?
Yeah, 100%. I would hate to go over there underdone, showcase, I guess, the Australian game to, those Yanks and us put on a poor performance.
So I mentioned Mike Daly before. He commented on one of the early ones about needing a bit of heart. We definitely do, Mike. He also very succinctly and very summarisingly, if that's a word, wrote prediction, pain. So, Mike, mate, I feel you. It's been nothing but pain for the last few years. So that's a fairly safe prediction, like the other 2 boys mentioned there earlier. So let's hope less pain. Let's go that path, eh?
Yeah, I think we're going to have pain, but it's going to be Payne Huss because he's going to sign with us.
Oh, did we just get that on record?
Yeah. If he signs and this happens, you can all thank me.
You can rest assured Payne Haas is not signing with the West Tigers. Nor do we want to spend $1 million plus on a prop, in my opinion. That's why we opted out of Fanua Blake.
Yes.
But we'll keep moving. So we'll get back to a little bit of the, the real talk about some of the breakdowns and whatnot. Dave has commented, why when we run the ball and attack do we have no support, whereas other teams always have 2 or 3 support players running with them? Now, that comment must have struck a nerve with a few people because there's a few likes on that one. So, Dave, thanks for the comment, mate. That's a beaut. So, mate, support play.
It's been an issue for quite a few years now, and we both have commented on it. I think it's for a myriad of reasons, and I think it's probably changed from year to year. I think last year was because our hooker was 3 steps ahead of everyone else, so no one actually knew to go with him. I think the year before, it wasn't in a game plan. We were playing way too simple. More defensive led. It was a typical Madge style kind of setup. But
safe football.
Safe football. But take away the Dragons game. The Warriors game, I commented on this. I said it looked like we were understanding where we needed to be in terms of support. I think that there's still some work to do from a Buller perspective. I think Buller needs to pop his head up a little bit more. But that'll come with experience and time, I think. But our fronties definitely were understanding what Appy needed them to do. And I thought we definitely moved a step in the right direction. The Dragons game, I don't think we really, again, it's hard to have those kind of, that mentality when you haven't got out of first gear. So,
yeah. Yeah, and we spoke about how it seemed as though the game plan was very simple deliberately in the Dragons game. There was no expansion at all, I guess, until later in the game. So that's something that we need to be quite mindful of as well. And seeing if, when we're in the season proper, if that's something we do start to see them explore a little bit more alongside that second phase play too, I think is something that's pretty important.
Yeah.
No, definitely agree. I think one area that we did improve towards the back end of last year, and I think will definitely be the case, I've already seen it in the trials, is the support with Appy. We weren't the only ones, but the start of that season last year was embarrassing how many times he got out with nobody around him. And that's
the amount of 360s he did. He must have gotten dizzy a couple of times.
I know. And that's just football sense, isn't it? When your hooker goes, whoever's there goes with him. And he came out in the off-season and said it. He said, I'm used to Nathan coming with me. And I was confused. I didn't know what was happening. So we had to go right back to the drawing board and whatnot as well. So I expect that to improve, no doubt. He's had a full off-season. Most of the squad has had a full off-season, which is wonderful. And so I'm sure that sort of thing will improve. And I know that Buller's going to go from strength to strength in that regard. He's the type. I was talking about this today, actually, with a few mates at work. I think Buller is very much, they're individual players, but I would put him more in the Dylan Edwards type of fullback than, say, the Latrell Mitchell, Greg Inglis type of fullback. Paradoxically, because he's working with GI, but in that I think Buller is going to be right place, right time sort of bloke. Yeah. We've already seen it. He's never, I said never's a strong word. He's very, very rarely out of position. And that's very Dylan Edwards-esque. It was Teddy-esque as well in a lot of ways. And I think that the benefit to that type of fullback is they are often sniffing. And so they are generally the person never out of position that needs to be there in support. And I think it wasn't overly strong in Buller, as you mentioned last year, but I think that's something that we can expect to see this year, or at the very least, well, I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Hope that answers your question, Dave. Thanks for reaching out, mate. We've got John. So John, one of our regular contributors, John, on our page and whatnot as well. So great listener. Thanks once again, John, for your support, mate. He said Sione Fainu will get the lock spot and extended. So these are a couple of predictions. He's got a few bold ones in there. Oh, Johnny boy. He goes, Lob will surprise on the wing and contest kicks with Buller. Toa, as in, we'll kick to those boys. Tall Timbers out wide. Toa and Naden will be dropped for Fatape and Olam. And Nutlick gets a run in round 10. And he's also said Latu Fainu gets the 6th spot. So Jimmy Nutlick. So do you remember from the World Cup, Jimmy Nutlick played for PNG, had a beautiful 80-odd metre solo try. He did his ACL at the back end of pre-season last year on a New South Wales Cup contract. He's back training with the Cup side this year. Okay. And he's one to watch, most definitely. He's got speed, he's big. He's from PNG. He's a young man. I think he's only 21. Now with Olam obviously arriving in the squad, gives him that PNG connection and whatnot. So there's a good little mentor there for him as well. So if Jimmy Nutlick can recover from that ACL earlier, again, he's another one that will no doubt come into contention, provided that his game can continue to develop. I only saw bits and pieces of him, but he's a threat. He looked like he was a threat, and he's a big body as well. So another one to add to that jumping sense there, mate. I might zero in on what do we got here? There's a few things that Johnny's mentioned here. Sione Fainu, is he in the mix for the lock spot? If not favourite, is he in the mix?
Not in my eyes, no.
Okay.
No, I think he did some good things in the trial, but I think he's a fringe bench player at best at the moment.
Okay. I would say he's in the mix. I don't think he's a favourite, but I think he's in the mix. I'll go a little bit. I'll push in a little bit more, a few more chips than you maybe. And mainly because what I saw in the Warriors trial first and foremost, where he played, I don't know if he played lock, but he certainly played in the middle. From last year, we saw he's got very good hands. I really rate Sione Fainu's hands. He's not as big as the likes of Samuela, but he's that bit older, he's that bit more physically mature. But what I liked is when Sione was on the field, I didn't see that middle get dominated all that much, even though those Warriors forwards were running hard. I thought he, held the middle quite well. Something I was massively critical of Seyfarth for not doing last year in that lock spot. If you recall last week, I spoke about how I believe the lock owns the middle, and they need to take responsibility for how that middle is being run. And I thought Sione, from what we saw in those limited minutes, if he was in that position, it looked like he was, that he did a pretty decent job. So I think there's a few in front of him, but lock is certainly something that is up in the air, isn't it?
It definitely is up in the air. I just think there's quite a few people in front of him.
Yeah. All right, mate. He's got Latu as well, getting the 6 spot. I don't think, John, that we're going to see Latu start at 6. It's pretty hard to come in off, some minor hamstring complaints and not playing a game for the best part of 6 months since you played 14 minutes or so off the bench for Tonga, which was unreal for an 18-year-old. And Latu is no doubt. We've spoken about Galvin quite a lot. The people that are new to, I guess, some of these younger names coming through and haven't seen Latu play, Latu is brilliant. I've been banging on about this bloke since he was at Manly. He is phenomenal. I think you remember last year how excited I was when I found out that Sam Weller and Latu were a chance. I didn't stop hammering you blokes in the text message chat, but I think that Latu, if he comes back and finds his form, is every chance to at the very least challenge for that 6 spot heavily this year. He will make his NRL debut this year, in my opinion, as will Galvin at some point, if not early on. Latu, the difference between Latu and Galvin, amongst other things, is that physically Latu looks ready. He is built. He's played in the halves. He's played New South Wales Cup. He has dominated. I wouldn't say, I think he's played 5 or 6 New South Wales Cup games. He didn't just completely brain the whole competition, but he played extremely well. Was involved in try involvement, scored a few tries himself, more than held his own in defence. He's a brilliant defender. So I think he's a fair shout to get some time in that 6 at some point this year, depending on how Caesar and Bud work out.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely finally be excited about, is if something does happen with our halves in terms of injury, selections, whatever, we have people to back them up. So I'm 100% with you in the fact that he will get a chance to play first grade this year. I will again agree with you. I don't think he's going to start in that number 6. I think we're still probably going to see Bud and Caesar at 6 and 7.
Yep.
But there's rumours, everything's floating around in terms of potentially Galvin getting that 6 jersey over Bud. Who knows? But I think Latu, you'll probably see him start really sniffing around that jersey mid-year. So,
yep. So just off that, on John's comment, we had Ken chime in. Thanks for that, Ken. And he's just fed off a bit of the stuff that John said, but he's sort of zeroed in a little bit on the centres. I'm going to focus on the centres. Kenny thinks that we're going to have Fa'atape and Naden. Don't be surprised if Fa'atape and Naden may be our centre pairing come season's end. And he said he does like Lob. He's already shown a bit more than what Tupou has in the short time he's had available. I think it's probably doing a bit of a disservice to the likes of Olam, and maybe Kenny forgot that Olam's now on the scene. But look, those boys are all in the discussion for that other centre spot, aren't they? We spoke about that last week. Fa'atape, Naden, and Toa.
100%. And if we go purely off trial form, Fa'atape's got it. Because, we talked in length about how disappointing Toa was. And Naden we haven't seen at all. So,
all right, we'll move on. We've got Sean saying it's a big season. Have the boys prepared well for the three-peat? Going from the trials, they look odds on. So another another one that's understandably, Sean, a little bit jaded after the last couple of years, but we'll see if we can do our best to try to pump those hopes up a little bit. At least, we've got to be positive, at least until the first game, I think.
Yeah, look, again,
it's all downhill from there.
Again, all the odds are against us, but stranger things have happened. Think of Leicester City in the EPL. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, that's true, and they haven't been really cited since.
No.
Jordan's got a good one here. I like what Jordan's put. So he said, what's the magic number of wins or improvement to claim it was a good season for Benji and the club moving forward. So that's a really good one. Thanks for that, Jordan. That's an awesome question, man. And we sort of threw it back at him and said, he said he's not really sure what his thoughts are at the moment. He probably have a bit of a think about it, but he said finishing it above at least 3 sides would be nice. So let's maybe extend that to getting out of the bottom 4, maybe in Jordan's eyes. What about you, mate? At the end of the season, we're sitting there in September. Obviously playing finals would be unreal. We talk about tempered expectations. Tempered expectations, right? So what is his success for you?
I think pretty much you hit the nail on the head. Success for me is out of the bottom 4. That is success because we've got a rookie coach, basically brand new spine, essentially. Halves pairing at least, and a second year fullback, and Appy's still an amazing hooker, but he's an aging hooker as well. So I think that out of the bottom 4 for me is a win.
Yeah. And there's context around everything. A lot of people sit there and they say, if you win half your games and you lose half your games, that's probably acceptable in some eyes. But then you've got to look at the context of where this club has come from and everything that has contributed to this situation we find ourselves in. And you just mentioned a couple of the variables there. There is an entirely new spine this year. There is a rookie head coach here. There is a largely rookie assistant coaching team with the exception of John Morris. These things are all, we're coming off the back of 2 spoons. These are all contributing factors to why expectations need to be relevant to, to the situation that we find ourselves in. And that's why I guess the question is tricky to answer, because any day of the week, you sit there and you say, I'll be happy if we finish 12th. People will look at you like you're a nutbag.
Yeah.
But that comes with a lot of explanation behind it, and it's nothing that we haven't and everybody else hasn't spoken about as to reasons why that is the case. Steve, actually right below what Jordan has said, Steve, thanks for your comment. Steve has written 11th nice and succinctly. So for Steve, somewhere around that 11 mark. For me, it's 11th or 12th. If we can, it's more than just the bottom 4 in my eyes. And next week, we're probably going to jump into ladder predictions and what sort of teams we think we can better. But around that 11, 12 mark is good, because for me, if you finish 11th or 12th, at some point towards the pointy end of the season, you're there or thereabouts, which means you're still a chance. I want us to be going into, say the last third or the last quarter of the season, still a chance of making the 8. If you're there, I think that's a decent amount of improvement. Even if you're sitting in that 12th position, there's still a logjam in front of you. You are keeping your season alive. The last couple of seasons where our season has ended in May is fucking depressing, mate. And that's just as a fan, as diehard fans. So it must be hard to get motivated for the players and whatnot. And we saw the list of reasons why in 2022 it fell off a cliff, but that's probably a big contributing factor why things went so south so quickly at the end of that season.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah. We've then got Joe, who has just put a GIF that says the point. So we're not sure if he's saying that
we should get to the point. I don't know. Get
to the point, or we need more points. In both situations, Joey, here we're going to try and get to the point. We do waffle, and we do need more points as well. So, mate, can't argue. Joe, thanks for your contribution.
I agree with both points. Get it?
Yeah, all right. Mate, we're getting on in time. As always, we've shot over what we predicted, but that's why we do it. So I've got a good couple of ones coming here now. We've got one from Ben. So I left this question a little bit later. Not dissimilar to the lock question in many eyes. Do you think Galvin should get the 14 jersey? When Appy needs a spell, put Bud in at 9. And who do you think wingers should be? Who do you think the wingers... Sorry. And who do you think wingers should be, but who will Marshall pick? Mate, what Benny said there in terms of Galvin in the 14 is something we've floated as an option, haven't we?
Yeah.
Even the likes of even the likes of Alatu or whatnot. I think that's definitely an option for a number of reasons, and I'll just give one and then I'll throw it to you to maybe give your thoughts. And a consideration around that for me is TDS. I think that Talon De Silva is best served in SG ball into flag and then playing cup this year. I think he needs reps in the tank. He'll be there if we need him, but Talon De Silva turns 19 this year.
Yeah.
Talon De Silva is a brilliant young player, and he's someone we've earmarked to take over from Appy long term, no doubt. he needs to get as much football under his belt against men as he can in these years where we've got a high-quality hooker who doesn't need to be usurped, and so he can bide his time. I think that's the best development for TDS. So that then is a system that I think that can work. And I think that what it does do as well is it allows us to get the likes of a Latu or a Galvin in the 14 jersey, who are not only skilled, talented youngsters who don't necessarily need to do as much tackling against men at this stage, like as a hooker who defends in the middle would do.
Yep.
But it also gives us versatility and it gives us points and it gives us creativity because both Galvin and Latu can play in multiple positions, are young and exciting.
I have literally nothing to add to that.
Good. So you agree?
Yes.
Lovely. And then what about wingers, mate? You can answer that one. So who would you pick as your wingers? I think we went through that last week. We will double check it as well next week when we go through our final sides and have a look at who Benji has picked. Who would you pick and who will Benji pick?
So my pick would be Lob and Staines. Benji will pick Tupou and Staines.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I think Lob, whilst he had some nice little moments in the trials, I think he's still got to prove himself in our colours in New South Wales Cup and do it consistently and basically demand selection. Staines and I know that Noffa was there too, but Staines and Tupou in many ways are the incumbents. And in a lot of ways, that's experience and you get first crack. I mean, Charlie Staines has won a premiership on the wing.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's a quality player and he might just need some time to find his feet after his injury. But yeah, I agree. It's those two to start. But again, it's nice to have options and we can't say that wing has been something that has been easy for us to follow for a long period of time. Or to at least have options around.
It's not because of one player at all. Not at all.
No, exactly right. No. All right. We are slowly getting to the end of what has been an absolutely awesome pod in terms of interaction and everything as well. I already said it before, but folks, thanks so much for all your messages and your comments and stuff over today, basically, but just in general. We've said it 1,000 times. We love the feedback. We love the interaction. We love the fact that you guys are enjoying the show and what we've got to offer. So thanks so much. Keep it up. Long may it continue. So we've got Matthew here. So Matthew said we'll finish just short in 9th, but we'll be an impressive team this year to watch, and hopefully we can all back Benji. Love the positivity. Shooting for 9th. Mate, Matty, that's our home run swing, brother. We are 9th. We're the kings of 9th. So, mate, if we get to 9th, that's a monster season from us coming from 17th.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. If we get 9th, that is an A+ pass mark by far. Yeah.
That's very impressive. With a squad, and I forgot to mention when you mentioned it before, there's a lot of things going against us, new spine, rookie coach, all that sort of stuff. It's easy to forget how young the squad is too and how inexperienced they are. Mm. And with that comes a lack of depth because of a lack of experience too. So, we've rattled through the top 30 players and the development players too and how little experience and how young that side is. Over the next few years, that's going to obviously improve and increase as these guys grow and develop. But at the moment, they're very young. And if we need to call on the likes of our talented 18 and 19-year-olds too much over the course of the season, that is only going to be a problem. So let's hope we don't go down that route.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, we've got Kerry. Now, Kerry's got a bit of a long one, so bear with me on this one. It says, this is always a hard time of year, as a Tigers fan, Kerry has said. You want to be optimistic, you want to be hopeful, but history has taught us otherwise each season. I've had this feeling before that things are going to be different, that we're going to turn the corner under Cleary, under Madge, under Sheens, and now Benji. Kerry, I'm hearing you, brother. And so I just want to make sure, apologies, Kerry, that's a male Kerry, not a female Kerry. Anyway, I'll keep going. I want to believe things are going to get better and that things will improve, but that last trial, and I know it's only a trial, was a key indicator that nothing has changed. It's a big task for such an inexperienced coaching staff, which we did mention. I love Benji and I wish him well, but it feels like we might be in for another long season. I think that Kerry has hit the nail on the head. I think we've mentioned similar things in this podcast as well. We always say about Tigers fans in February, hope springs eternal, and that's part of what keeps us all coming back for more. Put it this way. If there's some other clubs in our predicament, I don't think that their fan bases would keep them afloat as well as our club has.
Oh, God, no.
Mm.
I mean, you have a look at the Bulldogs. They've had a couple of lean years, and their fans are turning against each other.
Mm.
So,
I mean, we've been turning against each other as well, but we're still here. We're still showing up.
I wouldn't think we have, if I'm being honest. A lot of
Oh,
fans do
mate,
tend to be
you should hop on the forums. It's an absolute gladiator.
Yeah, but they're just full of very passionate fans.
It's our passion. It's our passion spills over.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
No, thanks for your comment, Kerry. We're there in the same boat with you, wishing them well, but we are mindful, as I think a lot of people are, of the inexperience that we see, and it's something that we're going to have to navigate. And we'll just see how we go. You're right. It could very easily be a long season. I think that's probably the smart money bet. But as long as we're starting to see continual slow improvements in small areas and we see these green shoots, I think there's going to be cause for optimism heading into 2025 and beyond, because I think we're in it for the long haul. And I know that that's a paradox, considering we haven't played finals since 2011 and we're being told to be patient. Hello? How much more patient do you want us to be? But that's the situation we're in. So love the positivity. Let's keep it up.
But I think the big thing that has obviously happened in the last year is changes have happened where they should have happened 10 years ago. So,
yeah.
Be positive, people. Be positive.
Yeah, at least try and pull positives out. Be critical too. We will be critical. Okay, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, we are anything but lacking for criticism.
Oh yeah.
It's just at this time of year, I think we all need a bit of positivity, and there, in my eyes, there's plenty of positives in and around the club to pull out. So I'm going to focus on them until there's reasons to be critical. And the Dragons game, or the Dragons trial, sorry, there was definitely reasons to be critical, and
we definitely pointed them out.
And we definitely did. Mate, we've got a couple to go here. So thanks to Tutty 1963. Good vintage that year. My father was 1963. For a number of years, the club hasn't had a great deal of success at Leichhardt or Campbelltown. With an increase to 10 games at these grounds this year, do you think it will help at all? This is a brilliant question, so thanks, my man.
Yeah, I really like this question.
And how important is it to be successful in these grounds in terms of the club's chances for improvement? What do you think, mate?
100% this is definitely going to benefit us, having a solidified home territory. Yes, if anyone that does, obviously we're Tigers fans, so we know the layout of Sydney, and Campbelltown and Leichhardt are quite far away from each other, but
that's the understatement of the year.
Yeah, to have those hubs as our hubs and not sit there and go to ANZ and then go to Combank and then, we still take a game to Tamworth, but that's awesome because, we get the country folk involved, the regional New South Wales people involved. But having those...
Bathurst as well. I think we're doing Bathurst again,
as well, but I think
this year.
I think that's a Panthers game.
Yep, again.
Yeah.
We'll win that.
But is that us or is that a Panthers home ground? Like home game?
Not sure.
Yeah.
It would make sense to be the Panthers, but...
Yeah. But, I think this is definitely going to benefit us. For me, we need to, like I mentioned before, I said it before in the pod, those grounds need to become a fortress. They need to become grounds that people just despise playing at because the fans are loud, the fans are rowdy, the fans get in your face. Again, you go to Leichhardt, and majority of the time, even when we're losing, the fans are still as passionate as they ever are. They're giving it to the opposition. They're making sure that, Jelly Legs is being yelled out from the sidelines. We know this. And that's what needs to happen. Thurston. And 100%. I think that's what things need to be.
Yeah, so it's more of the intangibles you're talking about in terms of Tuddy's comment, in terms of the impact it'll have. And we've played a lot of football, as a lot of our listeners have. Most people have played to some degree, and the difference when you're running out on your home ground versus when you're running out, even if it's in front of 16 opposition fans at an away game. There is a big difference there, and you feel that sense of, I guess you sort of gain a leg to a degree, and it's not always the case. But, yeah, look, you take the side to a heaving Leichhardt Oval, they may not always produce the performance that we're after, and certainly in recent history that hasn't been the case, but you pick that between a half-empty ANZ stadium every day of the goddamn week. Yeah, and look, for all his faults, I think Pascoe made those decisions from a financial perspective, and you can understand that. Although with the recent issues about the membership, what would we call it? the smoke and mirrors around the membership numbers, to put it nicely. I don't particularly want to pay. Yeah, I don't particularly want to pay too many compliments around how they've done things around that side of the club in the past. But financially or not, it definitely tore us away from our home bases, and more so, I think, with this new outlook that I think we're going to hear unfolded towards the back end of the month about pushing further and harder into the Macarthur region. We're going to see that Campbelltown influence, and I know that it's out towards that way, come more and more to the fore. They've got to get out. They've got to be more present in the Campbelltown area. They've got to be seen out there. There's a lot of people talking about how they see other jerseys and other supporters out that area. That simply should not happen. So it can't just be the home grounds, Tuddy, in my opinion. I think we need to go hard. And I think by the sounds of what Richo's onto, it sounds to me like that's the way they're going to go. And the home grounds, even though it was a decision made last year, is something that obviously falls well into that as well. So I think we're both in agreement that it's undoubtedly a positive thing.
Yeah.
Mate, we've got one more. Okay, we've got Tobo 4418, who has said, and we've partially covered this, so this will only be a quick one. I want to know who should play starting lock. I personally think Alex Twal, but can you give me your opinion? Now, you've mentioned Twally as an option. Yeah. Now, can I just ask you, Twally is an option. Is that more an indication of where we are placed in terms of lock options, or is that because you genuinely think Twal could perform?
Definitely because of where we're placed in terms of lock options.
So what are our options then? So if we run through our realistic options for round one. Seafarth, given that he was given first pick in the trials. We know how we've spoken about how we feel. We'll have a look at them in a sec. Pole played there last year. Twally has played there a couple of years prior. Is there anybody else that jumps in or is likely in the pool in your eyes?
I think a Smoky could be Samola. I think he could be a Smoky, just given his aggression and, like you said, his way to. For someone that's so young, I don't even think he's 20 yet. For someone so young,
he is. He actually turned. I checked it this week. He turned 20 last month. So
there you go. For a 20-year-old, still
happy birthday, Samuela.
Yeah, for a 20-year-old to just be able to play like that against grown men. Like, he is a grown man to an extent, but you're talking about seasoned veterans and not take a step back. I think that shows the type of player he is and will develop into at I guess at a greater length, if so to speak.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I don't really see anyone really standing out. It doesn't look like Matamua is really going to get a shot, and that was somebody that I had in there at the start of the year.
Yeah. So there's some of the other, I guess, lesser options that form a smaller percentage point of the option pool would be the likes of Whananutu, who's not ready, obviously. Kit Lelalei was in discussions earlier, but we've seen, again, those boys need a bit more time, and it's not an indictment on them. They are kids. These are 18-year-old boys that need time to develop into everything, into their roles, into their bodies, all that sort of stuff, and they should not be rushed into these positions. Matamua himself is only 20, I think, as well. So I think that definitely as the years go on, we're going to see maybe some of these boys come in and take those roles, the likes of Kit and Chris. But, mate, if you're picking one, who are you picking?
I'm picking 12. He's reliable, and that's what we need there. Like, his tackle efficiency is second to none. His first contact is usually quite good. And his line speeds, like, I don't know how somebody that tall, that solid, who weighs that much, has such a motor on him. You say the same thing about Payne Haas. Guy just doesn't stop. So.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, fair enough. So you're going to go for that more of a gated community middle third, essentially, and you're not looking for a second option. So you're shying away from the Glenn Stewart, Isaiah Yeo type, and you're more playing solid wall.
Only because we don't have that Glenn Stewart option.
So let me ask you then, in lieu of that, you need someone to hold up the play in the centre. do you have somebody else in that position to be able to hold the defenders up? Because otherwise they just slide their way across and they just cover every man. So you've got to have that second option in the middle. Is there anybody else that can fill that role? Because for me, I'm of two minds about the likes of Pole. I love the concept of Pole becoming that impact prop off the bench. We spoke about aggression earlier. But I still think with his late footwork, he is a running threat. I think he passes well enough. And I think if he continues to develop his intensity in games, particularly with his runs and his late footwork, he is that running threat. And that's where the issue with, not the issue, sorry, that's where the benefit comes from these Isaiah Yo types of lock, is they are a dual option. That's the only reason they are beneficial. When they go in and they draw the defenders at the line, they play at the line, they play at the back. The reason that's a thing is because the defenders in front of Yo have to stay with him because he's every chance of dummying and going. And he's a big body and he's strong and he can push through and create that chance. So they have to stay with him, which holds up the defensive line, which creates the space, right? We know this. No, our listeners know this. I think Pole can become that. I think he's more of a running threat. I think he can become that dual threat, provided his passing game is on point. I don't see that in Seyfarth, and I've got, as we said countless times, my issues with Seyfarth around holding that middle and his ruck, his ability to control the ruck when he's making all those tackles. Pole, I don't quite see the same option. So I'm willing to sacrifice my want for an impact prop off the bench, knowing that we've now got Sam Weller that could maybe fill that role. And I'd be happy to pop Pole back into that lock position for me. So I'm going to land on Pole.
I get that. But one of the big things you focused on earlier in the pod was how the Dragons just ran over the top of us in the middle because we didn't tighten up that middle. We didn't have that first contact.
Yeah.
That is something that Pole is still working on in my eyes. I think he's, definitely a first-grade footballer in terms of his defence, but is he that quality in terms of tightening up that middle, controlling that ruck, ensuring that first contact is solid enough to slow the play of the ball down, give your men a couple of breaths before the next play? I don't think so yet. So that's what, for me, that's what you're trading off, is something that you said we were lacking against the Dragons.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I sort of dove into this about Pole last week a little bit. I think that I don't disagree with you in that he's still learning his trade in defence and he's not going to be the best defensive wrestler at the age of 20. He's only been doing it in a professional capacity for a couple of years. I think he can develop that very quickly. But I did say last week that I think his first up contact, simply by virtue of the fact of his size and how aggressive, he's not an overly aggressive player, but he has the capacity to. I think his first up contact is clearly better than the likes. I think Twel's a better wrestler and catcher. I think Seyfarth is third down the pecking order in both those elements. So because Pole has the ability to be able to move laterally and to be able to hit first up contact, I think we can allow his, I guess, I wouldn't even call them deficiencies, but I agree with you. He's not probably the best at manipulating that ruck. But as long as he's got first up contact, he's got one of those elements. And so, look, like we said, we don't have a perfect first picked lock in our side or in our squad for that matter. Whether we sign in or we develop, that's something we're going to have to find in the next couple of years. But for me, on that point, everyone we put in there is a trade-off for a number of reasons, and I think we lack points above all else. I think if you're hiding somebody, you can hide them in the middle, and with the exception of someone like a Seyfarth in that instance, so provided that he's not getting dominated in the ruck, which I don't think someone the size of Pole would, I think that he's probably one of the better choices, and I'm happy to go with that. Who do you think Benji will pick?
Twal?
Yeah. So the fact we haven't seen him play in lock in the trials, or at least starting in lock, doesn't lend you that way?
Look, there's every chance that he'll probably just stick with Seyfarth because that's who he started both games. And potentially just thinks that the Dragons, he was off that night. But the fact also that when Seyfarth went off, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when Seyfarth went off against the Dragons, I didn't see him come back on.
I'd have to rewatch it.
If he did, he had absolutely minimal impact, and he probably came back as a frontie. That there indicates to me that Benji potentially has made a decision in terms of you're just not what I'm looking for. And Twal, I think, played out the rest of the game.
Okay.
that's just my indication. But again,
I'd have to go back and watch that. I rewatched it, and then I tried to erase it. What's
It's
that?
one of those things. It's one of those games I want to erase from my memory, even if it was a
Yeah,
trial.
I know. Lucky it's only a trial.
Yeah.
Mate, you got anything else you want to add on what we've spoken about tonight?
No, considering we thought we were going to go half an hour less than this, we have a tendency to just keep going.
Tell you what, we're just going to stop making predictions about the duration of each show.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right. Once again, I've already said it a couple of times, folks. Thank you so much for everything that you've engaged in, all your comments and messages today. It's been absolutely outstanding. You've literally carried the show. I hope you enjoyed us, and I hope you liked our commentary on the types of things that you were commenting. Please, long may it continue. I can't promise we're going to get to it every week, but we're going to do lots of these types of segments over the course of this year. So if you enjoyed it, let us know that you did, and it's something we'll try and put in some more semi-permanent capacity.
Yep.
Mate, I might jump into PSAs. What do you say?
Do it.
Let's rock and roll. 2 podcasts we always recommend: West Tigers podcast, West Life podcast. They do things as well as us, in some cases better. Make sure you go over and follow them, okay? Wonderful people, both of the podcasts. You're shaking your head over there.
We're amazing.
And humble by the sounds of it, mate.
Yeah, clearly.
West Tigers podcast, West Life podcast. You can find them on all your favourite platforms. Speaking of your favourite platforms, thanks to Best On Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com, they've been able to get us on Apple. So many of you listened to Apple last week, which we noticed in the numbers. So thank you so much for that. And I'm happy, I should say, that we've been able to get the show to you finally. Thank you for your patience. And Best On Ground Digital is the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. Thanks for your support to those lovely blokes over there. They support the show. They're wonderful people. They're brilliant at what they do. They got us on Apple. Give them a bit of love. bestongrounddigital.com. Thank you to Best On Ground Digital. Now, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Apple, and we're on Spotify as well, my friend. And many of you, and we're on Instagram as well, sorry. So all your favourite platforms, Tiger Town Podcast, same name on all of them. Many of you commented, messaged, did whatever you did in terms of how you interacted as well today. So many of you are aware of that, but feel free, by all means, if you're not following one of those platforms and you would like to, chances are there might be a chance you might miss a bit of content or whatnot, whether it's a room or whether it's a summary or whatever the case may be. So hop onto those platforms and make sure you follow along. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a belter. I've really liked this episode, mate. I've had a good time.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
Linked and it was over an hour. So
it was exactly right. And I haven't liked it because of us talking. I've loved the comments and I've loved the perspectives from everybody else. Even the couple of jokers in there.
What a joker.
You got to have a couple of jokers, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Mate, do you want to say anything else before we wrap up episode 6 for 2024?
No, I had a quick look to see if we're playing New South Wales Cup this week. No, we're debuting that against, I think it's Raiders down in Canberra.
I think a couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Same time as Jersey flag.
Yeah, it's the
flag as well.
To the NRL game. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's awesome. The old reserve grade.
Yeah.
But the juniors are still on. We had a clean sweep last week. Another thing you might catch on the page or catch if you're following us on Facebook is we try to provide the junior updates as quick and as often as we can over the weekends as well when we can get access to them. So if you're after updates on those on the day as opposed to a day or two later when westtigers.com actually releases them, then that's something you can follow us along for as well. Mate, that's about it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyable. We've got a bit more footy to watch this weekend, even though it's not Tigers.
Yeah, look, I'll watch it regardless. It is footy and it's back and we're happy, but I'll be much happier next weekend, I think. Or I could be much sadder next weekend. Who knows how it's going to turn out.
Hope springs eternal, my friend. The hopeful Tigers Legion. Anyway, mate, that's going to be us for the show. Don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to do our official 2024 season launch. All sorts of stuff. Probably a lot of... we might prompt as well, probably a lot of comments and predictions I think we might throw out on the socials as well. So those people sitting near your keyboards next week, get ready to throw us a couple of bold predictions as we like to do. And we will dive into round 2, game 1 for West Tigers and the squads and whatnot next week. And we'll dive into the season proper. Personally, mate, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's definitely making my back teeth float.
Believe it or not, my voice box is only just getting warmed up. after an hour and 20 minutes. But we only have one more thing to say, just that it's gotten warmed up, and that is, go the West Tigers.
Go the Tigers.